Wind in Toastmasters before. We'd go live yesterday and that was just through Facebook. This time I'm going through another program, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's see if we are now going live. Apparently. But it takes 30 seconds, so we don't know until then. So we will just assume, because we're that sort of optimistic bunch, aren't we, Toastmasters? Hello everybody. Thank you very much for Sarah for introducing me and bringing everybody together, and it's wonderful to see you all here. And if I look a little flustered, then for those that don't know me, I've just had my mother delivered back from hospital after waiting 8 days for her to return. And of course she returns half an hour before we're starting this. But that's what always happens, isn't it? That's what puts an edge on our lives. We, as I think Sarah told you, we're going to try this in 3 parts. And actually, if we don't get to part 3, it doesn't matter, because that's the scary part. Part 1, we're going to talk about your experience being on Zoom. In the second part, we're going to talk about your experience being or running an event on Zoom, i.e. the experience of running a club meeting or a presentation like this, where you're not in charge of just looking good yourself, although I never managed to look good anywhere. You are trying to make a whole event look good. And I've got some surprises for you, and I will warn you of 2 things. Firstly, I'm going to be brutally honest, whether it's against Toastmaster rules or my own personal rule. I will be brutally honest about everything. And the second thing is, I'm going to make some mistakes today. I'm going to make some on purpose, and there's a good chance I'll make a couple accidentally. So keep your eyes peeled. If you think something's wrong or something's right or whatever, just fill that chat up with lots and lots of content, because we want to keep Sarah awake. We don't want her to feel that she's being left out, so fill the comments up as much as you can. And those people on Facebook, fill the comments up there, because I promise I will reply to all of those afterwards as well. But I've only got one meter here today, so I'm not going to try and monitor all the places we're going at the moment, although I notice we already have viewers on Facebook and YouTube, which is a little scary, because I have no idea who they are, but I know there are quite a few of them. We have to start with a small announcement. Some of you may know we've got a conference coming. Do you remember that? It's just this weekend. 7 keynotes. No, you see, I've lied, because I've had a look at the agenda and I reckon there's 8. There's definitely more than 20 workshops. Only 4 contests. I suppose in a way we're lucky that our European Toastmaster friends with multilingual challenges have had to run more than 4 contests. We have 4 stages, which means that if you stay there the whole weekend, you're still not going to be able to see everything. You'll have to wait for the recordings to be released to see the rest. And it's all running in Zoom. It's all running in Zoom. Lots of Zoom. So we better find out how to use Zoom. And the first thing is we're going to talk about ourselves. So looking good on Zoom. Now, I don't want to brag too much, but I look pretty cool on Zoom at the moment. Do you know why I look good on Zoom? Answers in the chat. Poor Sarah's going to have to earn her keep already. Does anyone know the main reason why I look good on Zoom? Ooh! 1 strawberry to the person who mentioned the haircut. But those people that are saying lighting have nailed it completely. It doesn't matter what camera you've got. If your lighting's bad, you will never be seen. Which brings me on to a little video made by a friend of mine today, which I'm hoping will work for you, because I actually haven't tried to listen to it to myself since I made it this morning. But there we are. Toastmasters, we like to live on the edge. We have to believe our technology will work. So I'm going to say see you in a minute, and I'll pass you on to this chap. Hello, out in the garden to talk about light, because the sun is our best source of light. Look how bright I am. Isn't it fantastic? No, it's not. Look at those strong shadows. Really bad news. Really, really bad news. As I move around, look, it's really bad news. Look, shadows like that. And yet we do this all the time. We do this all the time. Bad shadows. The reason is quite simple. Whether you're indoors or outdoors, is that one spot of light that will cast the shadows. What we need is shade. Now, as we come to the shade, we obviously get darker, but that doesn't matter, because look how clear and how nice my face is now, even with that bright background. Swing round, I've got a darker background. Now, the difference in the face, all the blemishes and the contours all taken away, the face is softened and it looks amazing. Even I look pretty amazing. You will look fabulous. We need to make sure that we're outside, we're in shade. When we're inside, we do not have that 1 point light source. So here I am in front of a great light source, a bay window. The sun is over there and therefore it's not casting direct shadows, but the flood of light from outside is coming in, and it's making me look good even when I'm breaking the rule and my back to the light source. I should really be the other way around. Don't know if I want to though, because this room is quite untidy. Maybe if you do it that way around and I look down to the camera, we can hide the room, but you can see all this lovely light coming to me. Oh, it's wonderful. Looks good. Very cheap source of light. If you've got yourself a bay window, you've got yourself a good light source. So here we are in my Zoom room. It's only about 8 foot square. It's a little bit tight, but I have one light source on and a little bit of light seeping in from all the screens and behind the curtains. I have 1 point light source, normal light bulb up there, and you can see what it's doing, bringing shadows in my eyes, which is not good, under my nose, under my chin, not good at all. What we need is a bigger light source. Oh look, I can see one there. You can get light boxes like that from eBay or Amazon for not a lot of money, and what they tend to do is to run on these simple light bulbs. Like these. Now these are points of light, but of course when they're in the light box and that white covering breaks down the light, makes it smooth, and it works really well. And you can get lots of different designs, lots of different types of systems. Choose what you want to suit your budget. If you want to get silly, you can also get big ones like that one. That's over 1 meter in diameter. Great big spotlight behind it, but it produces a wonderful pool of light for me. I'll turn it on, shall I, and show you. You can see the camera compensating. If I put you in the light source, there is now light above you, around you. The camera is surrounded by light, and it makes me look good, and it makes me pop off my background as well, because even though my background is quite close to me, I am much closer in proportion to the light, because the light is inches away from the camera lens. And that is the secret for good video. It's good lighting. I'm sorry, the lighting, the volume was a little bit low in the middle there. Let me explain how I did that, if I can find it. It was here earlier, I promise you. There it is. This is a ZV-1. It's a £700 camera. I don't necessarily assume that you're all going to go and buy a £700 camera. But I am showing you this because this camera is far more intelligent than those little webcams that we're all using. It's far more expensive than those webcams we're using. This can connect to Zoom, but we're going ahead of ourselves. Let's just remember exactly what I've said, because it's the most important thing that you need to know apart from what I'm going to tell you next. The most important thing apart from what I'm going to tell you next is you want good lighting. And the best way to describe how good your lighting is when it's just that little bit too strong, when it's just that little bit too bright, then you sort of, your eyes think the glare's a little bit too much, your brain says, oh, this is too much. That's when your lighting's good. Think of it like going outside this time of the year in the bright sunshine. You know that feeling you get on your eyes, that it's too bright, it's too much? But what do you like 30 seconds later? You're enjoying the sunshine, you've got no problems whatsoever. We get used to low light levels in our houses, which is fine. That's terrific. But webcams spend a lot of time trying to bring the brightness up. So if you give them a nice bright area to watch, they will not spend all their time faffing around trying to make the brightness come up, and you will get a better looking image. So the second most important thing you need to know today is lighting. I have done this backwards for a reason. What was wrong with that previous video, apart from the fact that the guy was a poor actor? What was wrong? Sarah, what did I think? She doesn't know I'm dropping her in it like this.
Yeah, the biggest comments coming through was
Sound. Sound. You guys are good. Why are you here? You guys are so good. Sound. The most important thing a Toastmaster can do on a stage is what? Be heard. It doesn't matter if you've got the wrong clothes on. It doesn't matter if you've even got your back to the audience. It doesn't matter at all. You can fix all those things, but if you don't make a sound, there is nothing to listen to. Sound is the most important thing that you must have. And yet most people that come to me, the first thing they start arguing about is, oh, John, I see you've got these cameras. Do I need one as well? The answer is no! You need sound! That's why, oh, it's opened up. That's why this poor little chap had one of these connected, so that I was close to it, so when I held the camera out to do pictures of me, I could be heard. Except I turned the volume down so you would appreciate how annoying it is not to hear what's being said. There's always a method in my madness, but there's always madness in my method. So, we need to make sure of two things then. And if we get these two things right, we will do well. Because I'm afraid we have to deal with an issue. This is my theory of the world. This is how I like to think about anything I do on the internet, whether it's Toastmasters, Zoom, websites. I'm a WordPress developer, by the way, anyone notice? And anything else I do. I have a theory, and I'd like to bore you with it because it makes a nice little story, and we like stories in Toastmasters. In the old days, I'm 453 years old, by the way, so I remember the old days. In the old days, we used to live in villages. Now, you've all seen villages, but for those that haven't, here's a village I prepared earlier. Once upon a time, we all lived in a village. And in the village, you would have a specialist for whatever you needed. If you wanted some bread, there was a baker. If you wanted your gates done, there was a ironmonger, a blacksmith, whatever you want to call them. There was a person there to help you. Wonderful world. But unfortunately, in the last 400 years, we've developed a little bit beyond that village. We come into using towns and cities. Now, towns and cities have more people in. So what does that mean? That means one baker's no longer enough. There are multiple bakers. There are lots of bakers to sort out the problems of all the people so they can all get their bread. But that introduces a modern thing called competition. Competition means that in some places you're going to have a choice of getting your bread from multiple sources. One person is going to do better than the other. And then it got worse, you see, because then somebody went and invented the internet. So now, dear Toastmasters, we are in competition with absolutely blooming everybody. And it doesn't matter how hard you try and persuade me that what you have, what you know, is so unique that nobody in the world knows apart from you. You can believe that if you want to. But it's not true, is it? It might not be that nobody knows exactly what you know, but there's going to be a few 100,000 people who know something about what you're talking about, and a few thousand of them probably know more about it than you do. And therefore, think of the world as a big pile of people knowing what you know. Which sounds like bad news, doesn't it? Because now you're in competition with maybe thousands of people. But most of those marketplaces have got tens, hundreds, millions of potential customers. So if you're above average, you're probably going to do quite well. Would you agree that that's a reasonable suggestion? The reason I'm telling you there's lots of people in competition with you is because on the internet that is true, but it also means that subtle improvements in your presentation can very quickly bump you up the list. And the higher up the list you get, the more the potential of your market you can win on merit alone. Because who invented the Hoover? Who invented the Hoover? It's a trick question. Nobody invented the Hoover, they invented the vacuum cleaner. Nobody invented the Hoover. Marketing makes you better. And speaking is all about marketing. It's all about portraying yourself. Your speaking skills, your Zoom skills to communicate with people work before you sell something and when you've sold something. Now you've got to get yourself up that ladder. Every time you go a little bit further up that ladder, you have more potential customers to sell to. You can afford to charge them more for the same amount of information, and you've got less competition. You will hear me claim lots of different figures because I take them from different time zones. My business has grown significantly because I joined Toastmasters. Because I'm able to now use Toastmaster skills to get the edge on other people. And if you are going to communicate to people on Zoom, whether it's in your club or further afield, those little incremental skills will make you look better. Now, we didn't all come to this Zoom meeting to look our best. We came to this Zoom meeting to hear a speech. So if you have a quick little glance away from the handsome face you see before you now and have a look in gallery view, you will see a group of very nice people with different backgrounds, with different lighting, with different clothes on. Great to see some people with the background for this weekend. That's wonderful to see. But we have a myriad of different people with different backgrounds and a lot of people who are being sneaky and hiding with their cameras off. So, we didn't come here to look our best, but the better you look on your camera, the easier it's going to be for people to communicate with you. The better your audio, the better it is going to be for people to communicate with you. And in this world of connections, always, I promise you, a few % more in what you're able to deliver will pay benefits. Even if all you're doing is trying to get Let's take an example out of my recent past. My mum's just come back from hospital. I had to use quite a few Toastmaster skills, especially the rule of three. Let her come home, let her come home, let her come home, to make sure that I got out of the hospital what I wanted to. I used table topic skills on numerous occasions to make sure I made my point to whichever nurse and doctor I was speaking to, quickly and succinctly. Toastmasters helped me get my mum home. Toastmasters helps me every time I open my mouth. So, the first and most important thing is audio. And audio is as complicated as you want to make it. But here are a couple of really simple things for you to remember. And I'm afraid we're going to go into science here. So I'll go big screen to go scary science. So I'm going to go back to my speaker view and I'm going to tell you some science. The biggest problem for most people is echoes. And an echo is a competition between your voice going to the microphone and your voice bouncing off the walls and going to the microphone. That's what an echo is. Now, I don't get too big an echo in this room because it's only about 8 foot square. So although there is an echo going to the room off the walls and coming back, because the room is so small, the echo is so much on top of my normal speech into the microphone that it's quite difficult to actually hear the echo. It doesn't really sound as a separate thing. We have our contest guru, our conference director, on this call, and I might even get her to turn her microphone on a minute because she is, if she hasn't moved, she's in a big wooden room and I can actually hear the wooden room. When I hear Gula speak, I can hear what sounds to me like a garden shed. Does ever realise, you know that sound you get when you go in a garden shed, that wooden sound? You will hear that when you hear Gula, because that's exactly what she is. Okay, it's a lot more posh than a garden shed, but it is a wooden building. And if she has the microphone further away from her mouth, then there's more time for the echoes to come in and take away the crisp sound of being next to the microphone. And that is why, dear friends, the first thing you need to do is think about the position of your microphone. Not how much your microphone costs, but the position of it. This little dingle-dangle thing that I plugged into my camera, this is the sort of thing that interviewers have. You clip it on your clothing. Now it again is now nice and close to your mouth, so it will come into the ear. I sound like I'm with you rather than I'm in a room because it comes in close to you. This is about £10. You can pay a lot more for them, but they start about £10. This will make a big difference. If you've got a laptop like the one there or the one there, and you move your laptop back because you want to be within the screen, not like that, you've just made distance between your laptop and your mouth, and that distance is when you start getting echoes and people can't hear you very well. A simple microphone will get you closer. I know the ladies don't want to muck up their hair, but a headset is even better. There are different versions of headsets, and I promise you, ladies, that the brownie points you're going to lose for not having your hair perfect will more than be made up for by the better audio if you have the microphone next to you. It does make a difference. And actually, there is one trick I can do quite often. I happen to know that this microphone is not so bad, it's not so sensitive about distance, that if I put it down there in front of me, I don't lose too much. So there we are. My hair, what's left of it, now doesn't get crumpled by my headset, but the microphone is nice and close so you can hear me. Right, let's talk about Zoom, because that's what we're here for, isn't it? Zoom is really helpful when it comes to audio. Oh, by the way, Zoom is also a pain in the what's-it when it comes to audio. Because Zoom tries to be clever and help us. And helping us is great. Most of the time. Have you ever tried to applause at the end of a speech? Don't bother. Because to Zoom, that's a background noise. That is a noise. And Zoom will just cut your microphone off. You'll lose the volume. Now I'm going to try an experiment now. There we are. I'm going to start talking quieter and quieter. And what may happen is Zoom will realise this and turn the volume up. If you talk too loud, it'll actually turn the volume down. The problem is I wouldn't rely on all these clever things. I would rather have control. I would rather have certainty. I'd rather know that things work correctly. So, in the audio settings, if you click on your little up hat where the microphone is, and you can all do it now, it won't break anything. Well, not yet anyhow. You will have a list of all the microphones that your Zoom can see. It probably won't be as ridiculously long a list as I've got. And it will also have a list for all the speakers. It certainly won't be as long as a ridiculous list I have. And then below that, there are a few options. Test, speaker and microphone being the first. Well, I'm sorry, but you should use that every single time you start a Zoom meeting. Do not assume anything with Zoom, and especially not when you've got a Windows computer. You might be luckier with a Mac, but not with a Windows computer. So every time you start, you need to make sure that you click on that test speaker and microphone. You listen to make sure the noise is coming. The noise is not coming in here. The noise is coming for me in my speakers behind the computer. Make sure you can hear that ringtone and it's loud enough for you. And then go to the bit where it says speak and pause. You speak into it and you might hear it playing back to me now. So you make sure your audio works. But, warning, I have my microphone onto you. So I'm testing my microphone, but you can hear what I'm saying still, can't you? So make sure that when you're testing your microphone, don't have your microphone on. Otherwise you'll look silly. Make sure your microphone is correct. Make sure that works. Now, after that, we start to get deeper into things to go. So the next thing is, there's a whole load of settings in Zoom. And as I said, they're there to help you, but be aware of them because sometimes you may not want them. So, again, click on the up hat and go to Audio Settings. And you will be in the settings box, the third one down, called Audio. There are 3 separate audio devices, according to Zoom. There's your speaker, and there's your microphone. But did you see that you can tick to have a different device do the bing bongs when people come in the room? Which is jolly useful because you can have that on your speaker and then you can walk away and you can hear when people are coming in the room at the beginning of a meeting. But what I really want you to do is to scroll down because there's a load of scary features down there. A load of scary features. Remember, Zoom is trying its best to help everybody as much as it can. So the first thing it talks about is suppressing background noise, which is wonderful. If you have background noise, if you don't have background noise, it can destroy applause or other effects that you may want to use. So you may want to change those settings. I have it on low, so it only makes a very small amount. And I have the next option for show in meeting, enable original sound. Now this is a really big one because once you have a sound device that you think is really good and you don't want Zoom to muck it up anymore, you set the original sound option and you click on it, and when original sound is on, you get a little message at the top of your video window saying it's on, and Zoom pretty much then leaves you alone and lets you get on with your audio. So if you have other technology, maybe you've got a sound card, maybe you've got invested in some really good headphones and a good microphone, you don't want Zoom then playing around with things. If you're going to want to do effects and you want to make people jump and you don't want Zoom to muck it up for you, then you didn't jump very hard, did you? Then you want to make sure that these things work. Yeah. So next to the microphone there is a up arrow, like a hat symbol. And that hat symbol then opens up a box of microphones and speakers. And the one we're talking about is audio settings, which is the option at the very bottom. Does everybody see that? Does anyone else? Everybody okay? Now you can play, and I suggest you do play around with these audio settings, but once you get them right, once you have what you need, you don't need to touch them again. But they are useful. Notice at the very bottom there's a music and professional audio section. So if you are wanting to play background music and stuff like that, you're going to want to change some of these settings so you get a really good quality audio coming through. The same as system about audio and speaker is that thing about the ringtone. So use the ringtone comes through your same headset or whatever speaker setting as your normal audio. Once you've got these working, we can then flip to the video. So in that settings box, the next on the column on the left, the next one up is video. You can get to it by clicking on video, or you can use the little up arrow by your video box to get to the video. And these video sections, again, you may think, and I know somebody's left because they think these are quite basic things, but actually they're not basic things. These are advanced things. We've got something there called touch up your appearance. That softens your skin. That takes out the wrinkles. Okay, put it another way, it slightly blurs the picture. If you've got good lighting, like I have, all this lighting coming in, I don't need to worry about blurring the picture, so I won't use touch up my appearance, and that means the rest of the world is not going to get blurred. Touch my appearance is very useful until you've realised it's blurring everything for you. Adjust for low light. We should not be using adjust for low light because we should have enough light that the thing can work on it. We don't want the poor computer wearing out all its microprocessors just because we've got a dark room. Let's leave it to use its microprocessors for much more useful stuff. And the other thing about the video, which you may want to tick on at the bottom, is you can have 49 participants in your speaker view instead of 25, which is jolly useful to keeping an eye on people. But then in the advanced tab we have the similar noise reduction type ideas as we had in the audio. So optimize video quality with denoise. Denoise means there's distortions, there's bad signals coming through your video. If you've got a good clear video, you shouldn't need that. The other settings are probably beyond what you want to touch, but for those people that have very powerful PCs and other software running around, you can see there that you can selectively choose what part of the processor is running. But for 99% of us, don't worry about that bit. Don't worry about that bit at all. So there we are. 20 minutes just on video and audio. But I promise you that if you follow those steps and you practice them and you get them the settings you want, you will look and sound so much better. You will make a better effect in all of your presentations. I have a big window in front of me, but I close the curtains and I use these lights so I have consistent lighting, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Once you get carried away, yeah, you can use technology like the stuff over my shoulder, but you need to get the basics right first. So let's talk about a few more things that makes you good. Backgrounds. No, I'm joking. Backgrounds don't make you look good. Most of the time, backgrounds are a bad idea. Please avoid, unless you really, really have to, or you're pushing the contest that we have the weekend. Really, really avoid backgrounds until you've got a properly working green screen. There's a very simple reason for that. And that is, if I turn on, I don't know, if I turn on a background, or a Toastmasters background, if it's not contrasting with me, then I look weird. Look at my computer. Now I have a really, this computer is only 2 years old and it was £3,000, so it's probably a £1,500 computer now. But look, Paul Zoom can't tell where my chair ends and the background finishes. If I do a Toastmaster gesticulation, I'm not sure my fingers are even going to be showing. If you're going to use a background, then use a green screen background. Oh, sorry, wrong way around. So look, you see I can put my hand in front of a green screen. It's never going to disappear, is it? It's never going to disappear. The more complicated your background, the more the computer has to think to try and work out. David Adams is up there and he's on a background. I wonder what his background is like behind that. Because if you don't have a simple background, then the computer will just lose, and you try not to do it, you do it without a green screen, then the computer is really just trying to work out what's you and what isn't. And it works on an algorithm of, well, if you move and I think I know what a person looks like. I'm sorry, it doesn't look that impressive. If you want to go to the top of the tree and you want to look good, honestly, these types of backgrounds are not that good. They're not powerful. If you want to advertise something, you promote something, fine, it's obvious. But look how my chair is appearing and disappearing. What does that do? That distracts you from listening to me, because you're now trying to make sense of why this guy's head keeps getting bigger and smaller all the time. I hate to pick on our conference director, but Gouleur's lovely big hair goes absolutely wild sometimes when she's moving around if she's not using her green screen. Richard is doing a good impression there of what happens when the computer's trying jolly hard to work out what his background is, but unfortunately it's just a piece of software. It's not that clever. It's not got the brains to work it out. So virtual backgrounds can be useful in the right places, but you're better off having a green screen. And if you don't have a full green screen, like I haven't at this setup at the moment, well, what I do is I just create backgrounds that I know will work in that little area of my green screen. So I can put messages up in that green screen area without taking up the rest of the background. Of course, that green screen is bigger than it seems because it's standing up at the moment. So I can lay on its side, I can put it behind me, and I can do green screen stuff. But of course, if you want to do green screen stuff, then the most exciting stuff is if you start playing around with screen sharing. Because there are a couple of things in screen sharing that you can do that you might not appreciate. If you hit the, let's really cause trouble. Let's turn on enable screen sharing for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to screen share first to stop you doing it. But if you all click on the share a screen option, and don't share your screen, just have a look at the options. If you click on the advanced tab, there is something called PowerPoint as virtual background. Zoom will take a PowerPoint slide and make that your background. And you can then maximize or minimize yourself on that background. Now your background is starting to look a bit more interesting. You can also just share your computer audio. If you're going to play music to support your audio, I should suggest you share your computer sound that way, because if you share your computer sound that way, Zoom won't do that awkward thing of trying to turn it off thinking it's background noise. So if you're going to play music, use the advanced share computer audio as a separate button, or if you're using virtual screen, portrait screen or anything else, make sure you've got the share sound button, which again is at the bottom of that advanced screen. This will give you a better way to produce your content. So, Madam MC, do we have some catch me out questions, Sarah?
So we have had a couple of questions about what we're talking about the sound.
Yeah.
So somebody's asked the headphones that you get with the normal mobile phone are good enough to use. Would you recommend those?
The headphones are fine. The one thing you have to be careful of with a lot of these things you plug in with audio jacks is if you only plug in a headphone, those jacks tend to want to have a headphone and a microphone. So if you only plug in a headphone, then you've got to make sure your microphone's coming in somewhere else. And if you just plug a microphone, you can suddenly find that it now then thinks you've got headphones as well, and you wonder why you can't hear anything. So yeah, they're fine. But I will actually, I've got to be careful here now, because if I unplug it, then you won't hear me. So I'll pretend it's this one and unplug something else. My thing here, which I have, which I think is about £30, called Callze, Callez. Oh, I should have stopped everybody from screen sharing. You're all getting carried away with screen sharing now, aren't you? My Callze thing here will plug into the USB socket. So it's not taking up an audio socket, it's plugged into the USB. That gives me less problems than plugging in something in the audio socket. But headphones, mobile phone headphones are fine as long as you are connecting into the same computer. If you have two devices and they are both getting audio, you'll get echoes straight away. Zoom is very good at taking what I'm hearing through my headphones and not putting it back into my microphone again to get echo on one machine. But if you use two machines because you want to use your headphones from your phone, then you have a potential problem of an echo between the two devices. So if you are going to use two devices, only one device can use the echo. And if you decide you're going to talk through a computer, and then everybody's going to hear you through a phone which is going through Wi-Fi, which has a small delay, you will find that your mouth and your audio will get slightly out of sync. Next question, please.
Well, I can see your screen at the moment, so I don't know if you were demonstrating the out of syncness, because I can see you several different times and myself, and I can see the out of syncness.
No, you can see the out of sync and you can see yourself, but no, I wasn't out of sync because I'm still using the audio here. I could simulate out of sync, I suppose, in a second, but that would just be creepy. So I won't for now.
So at the moment, we've got you on screen share. Is that what you intended, or not so much?
Not so much. I hit the microphone, which didn't help. I saw something about a green screen. As far as green screen is concerned, I'll let you into a secret. It doesn't have to be green. In the world of TV and video, they use green screens and green screens and blue screens, and they use those two colours because they're the furthest away from skin tones, and that's why they use those. But actually, you can use any colour you like. Dick Dixon's got a nice wall there. That would be a nice colour. The only thing you want to do is make sure that the colour of the background screen you're going to use is as far away from your skin tones, your hair colour and what you're wearing as possible, because obviously we've all seen the one where somebody chooses the wrong colour and their clothes start disappearing. I can do it here as well, can't I? So if I go to virtual background and I choose my top, there we are, my clothes have now disappeared. Oh look, I changed colour. So it can be any colour you like. I want to turn it off, John. But you can use a bed sheet. It doesn't matter what. It just needs to be evenly lit, so it's all of the same contrast, and it can be any colour. But if it's the same colour as anything you are wearing, then that bit of you will disappear as well. After saying that, green screens are really quite cheap on the internet nowadays, but as I said, you don't have to have them.
I've also got a question indirectly about doing this on something other than a computer, so that some of these features aren't on things like iPads. And is your advice that if you want to look really good on Zoom, then you're going to need to do it with some kind of computer and all the tech that you can plug into that computer?
It does depend what you're doing. There are quite a few people who have used their iPhones for presentations because their iPhone has just got a better camera than they have on their computer, and that's a legitimate reason for using a phone. A quite justifiable, legitimate reason for using a phone. But when you start to add more tech, then yes, a phone. There are apps you can get in your phone to help, because remember, your phone is a pretty damn powerful computer anyhow. So there are some apps you can use to enhance things and make things work a bit better on your phones. But once you start adding all the extra bits of hardware and equipment, plugging it into a computer is really the only way of doing it reliably. How did I create the... Sorry?
So a question that I had from what you've been doing today, and what I really liked, which seems to be a bit different depending on who does it. So we saw when one of our participants shared the screen and it comes up all black and says somebody's started screen sharing. But when you were showing us the pictures earlier on, it went straight to your video and it went straight to the picture of the village. How did you do that?
Okay, that's really a part 3 question, but here's the simple answer. In your worlds that you're probably in at the moment, I'm going to assume that you have a computer and you have a camera, which may be part of that computer or hanging off separately. And when you've gone into Zoom, you've said, I'm using that camera, and that camera is directly connected to Zoom. What I've done is I have put in a piece of software. Now there are 3 really common versions of it. One of them is called OBS and it's free. There is another piece of software called Wirecast, which is a software version of the sort of thing they use at TV studios and costs £30,000. The software version of Wirecast costs about $800. And there's another piece of software which falls in the middle of those two called vMix. And vMix is the product I'm using at the moment. The basic version of it I think starts at $35, and then the pro version is about $700. So what I have is I have a computer with a camera, then I have this vMix program, and then I have Zoom. So the camera is going into vMix, and then vMix is going into Zoom. Now vMix has the ability to play my camera, as I have now. It's also got the stills, which I created from my PowerPoint slides, and I can fade one in like this, and I can fade it out. And it also has the ability to play videos and to do a lot more besides. Like for instance, I can boost the audio. So if I am too quiet, I just muted the wrong button there. If I am too quiet, I can boost the audio. So it gives me a processing station where I can introduce other media and process the media I've got before it goes to the webcam. Now at the conference, we will be running lower thirds during the competitions so that you'll know who the speaker is and what speaker name they are doing, and what we're doing there is simply taking the video signal of the contest. I'm adding a bit of graphics and then sending it out through the webcam, which is then connected to Zoom. When I say through the webcam, we don't actually go through the webcam. Zoom just thinks we're a webcam and we just deliver the content to it. So you can mix things up, you can have multiple people, and you could do all those things that they do at a TV studio if you've got time to sit there and work out all the settings.
And I am getting questions again. At the moment, you've got your screen shared, so are you aware of that?
Yes, I was trying to stop everybody else, but I think everybody else is behaving themselves now, so we will turn that off. There we are.
Great. I think just everyone wants to see you more, John, and be able to see.
Oh dear. Yeah, yeah, that's what I was doing. I don't know. There we are. That is vMix. Now it's going to look a bit weird because I've got a video and a video and a video, but that is vMix running. So you can see there's lots of little. Can you see all the little boxes and all the little things that I can choose there to make it work? Is that working? Because obviously I can't.
What you're saying is to do the really nice presentations with screen sharers, you need an extra bit of software in there somewhere to be able to choose what you share and how the transition works, rather than just clicking on share in Zoom.
Yeah, that's right. And I got three screens connected to the computer. That's why I'm staring around trying to find where the cursor's gone. Yeah. So yes, Stephanie.
I have a question. Maybe it's a stupid question, but when you go to the settings video and you choose the background, then you actually where you have all the artificial backgrounds, then in the bottom it says green screen technology. So what do you do with that button? It looks like this.
Yeah, you click on I have a green screen, and then what you have is a mouse, and you effectively move your mouse over your image, and you choose wherever you click. That takes the color from that particular bit you've just clicked on, and that then becomes whatever your color is, and that becomes your green screen. In other words, whichever color you click on is the color that is taken out, made transparent, and then your background is seen through it.
I think we've done most of the questions in the chat now. So
Excellent.
any more questions?
Yes, I had a question. John, how did you create that green background behind you?
What, this one there? The one that's there now?
Yes.
It's a pop-up green screen, so that's actually a pop-up piece of cloth. Shall I show you? I'll try not to fall over because there's not much room in this room. But if I squeeze it in, can you see?
Yes.
See?
Turned that into blue earlier. So
Yeah, well, I turned it into blue because what I did was I superimposed a blue background on it, and that's how I changed it to blue. So that was a bit devious, wasn't it?
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Rather than getting a blue screen out, I just cheated and turned the green to blue. I've just lost. That's not very clever because Philip thinks I'm a real fool for doing that now. I can see the way he's laughing at me. He's thinking, "Oh my God, did he really do that?" There we are.
What's the superimposed button?
This is really weird because I get to see what I've done 30 seconds ago in the live stream. It's very weird, very weird. Okay, well, look, we've got to the end of half an hour. So let's talk about what you can do to make your club event or anything else you're marketing on Zoom boom. You've got lots of lovely tools here. And again, look, Toastmasters. This is where you can really benefit. And those people watching us on the internet, you really need to become a Toastmaster. Because when you're a Toastmaster, you can make better use of all these tools. There are great interaction tools on Zoom. And if you're a Toastmaster, you're good at table topics. You know your subject. So you have no fear in taking random questions from people, do you? We know that interactivity really builds up the rapport between you and your audience and gets them more likely to buy whatever you're selling. Whether that be a product of your own, hire you, or just get more people to join your club. So use the interaction buttons. Thankfully, Zoom's had a good tidy up since Christmas, and most of the things that we need to get access to are now actually found in the same place. They used to be spread all over the shop. Now, everything to do with interaction and security is on that big security button. And on that big security button, you've got the global controls to stop people unmuting themselves, to stop them starting videos if you want to be the only picture on the scene, to stop them doing chat if you're running a contest and you don't want stuff flying around. You can enable or disable whether or not they share a screen. All great interactions, but the great thing about Zoom is you can control when they are or not available. Because you're all well-behaved Toastmasters, I've been able to leave the unmute yourself button alone the whole time. Because you're all well-behaved. But if you were a group of random strangers I didn't know, I would probably disable that because I wouldn't want you just turning on your microphone at random times and shouting at me. Otherwise, all the other reactions are under a button called Reactions. They used to be in these. Oh well, they were all over the place. There was some in the participants button. They were all different places. But now the reactions button has all the reactions. Can I have a thumbs up if you understand what I've just said about the reactions? Okay, and those people that put their own fingers up didn't get the idea. I was hoping you were all going to hit the thumbs up reaction button. Have you seen how many different types of reactions there? You can laugh, you can cry, you can look happy, you can let off a party popper. I wish it would animate. Never mind. And now there's a whole load of emojis there. Now, if you haven't updated your Zoom in the last week or two, you're probably going to say, I can't see the emojis, John. Well, that's because they've only been available very, very recently, in the last 1 or 2 updates, I believe. But there's a whole load of emojis. You know, I like that one, for instance, that you can put up there. So, creating reactions and building rapport and getting interaction with an audience is a really powerful thing. As Toastmasters, we are good at doing that. We should be good at doing that. Thanks for the love heart, Annalise. I did notice. We should be good at doing that. We should be able to create reactions. And look, I apologise in advance to all you people that have been on WebEx and doing webinars year after year after year after year, where all you can say is, is anyone with me? If you're with... that's not a very good imitation of anybody, is it? If anyone's with me, put a 1. If you don't think it's right, put a 2. What a boring way of getting interactions. We don't have to do that in Zoom. We don't have to do that at all. You've got lots of different ways to get people to interact. Lots of ways. Make use of them. Encourage use of them during your speeches. Encourage use of them club meetings. Because everybody's complaining they can't clap and they can't, all the other things, get them to use the reaction buttons. Get them to interact. Interaction is powerful. And the chat, well, you've probably noticed that I have somebody helping me with the chat. We're doing this for the whole conference. We've learnt from experience that you can't give a good presentation and monitor the chat. Now, I'm hoping that you have a reasonably good connection with me. And I'm hoping you have a really good connection with me, because most of the time I'm not looking at my own image all the time and just seeing how really cool and sexy I am. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. Strictly at you. That is a very important, powerful thing. When we're in a room, we do it all the time. We teach ourselves to do it, to interact with the audience. Now, you may be little boxes across the top of my screen, but as far as your brain's concerned, you're hiding behind that camera lens. I've got to watch that camera lens. Did you notice when I did the recordings with my little camera that most of the time I was looking into the camera lens, I was looking at you? Because when most people do these, and live streamers do it as well, they have some fancy flip up screen, just like I've got. And what do? They look over here instead of looking in there. And suddenly, it's like I'm ignoring you and I'm just looking over your shoulder. And if I do that for the next half hour, you guys are not going to get a connection with me and be boring. So, and I haven't forgotten where I started this conversation, you have somebody else monitoring the chat, so you don't have to start reading it. See, I did remember where I was in the speech. I didn't waffle, I came back. Now, I can only do that now because I'm a Toastmaster. And if you come this weekend, of course, you'll see lots of examples of that. I know that somebody has just put a really long piece of text into the chat because out of my corner of my eye, I saw it jump up a lot. But instead of reading the chat and then trying to work out an answer, I can just say, has anybody got anything to say, Sarah? And she will find it for me. Isn't that amazing? It's so simple, but it's a little incremental thing. So I better shut up and let her give the answer. Sarah.
In my chat, don't have a very long message, but I do have a question of where is your camera?
My camera is just above my biggest screen. I've got 3 screens. I would have, wouldn't I? So I've got a main screen and the camera is just sitting on the top of that. Then above it I have another wider screen which is a smaller definition, but it's a wide screen. And then I have a third screen as a vertical screen on the side. The reason the screen on the side is vertical is because that vMix program that I showed you, it's just easier to lay stuff out and make it easier to interact with all the elements if it's a vertical screen, because when you do it as a horizontal screen you get 2 big like TV screens of what you're preparing and what's live in the middle of the screen, and then you lose the rest of the screen. Whereas if you turn it up on its end, they become 2 little boxes at the top and there's plenty more room for me to put other things. Because remember, we have some contests to do, and I have to remember to put the lower thirds of all the names of all the contestants. And that takes a lot of boxes to put into my vMix to prepare all those buttons when you've got 4 contests to do in 2 days.
And this is why you, with all the tech and the knowledge, are in charge of complicated things like contests.
Yes.
But as John has just said then, he is not looking at the chat. So if you have been messaging John directly, he's probably not going to get to your question. So if you want John to answer a question, please do put it to everyone in the chat, or you can message me directly.
Let's talk about yes, Richard. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I was behind the scenes at the conference last year, and this year as well as obviously participating normally. But
Thank you for your support.
you must have a lot of help behind you. I know when you did the credits last year, you had about, I don't know how many Zoom masters you had helping you. You have quite a few, don't you? So is it more technical this year in that sense? Or?
Actually, it's in a weird way, it's simpler because it's more complicated. Annalise will tell you it's a nightmare because she's trying to work out all these Zoom masters to cover 4 different rooms running simultaneously. But actually for each Zoom master individually it's simpler. So their experience is going to be a lot easier because they've got less to worry about. But the audience will have to run around a bit more to get between the different rooms. So it's gone in both directions. We've simplified the experience for the people doing the various jobs, but the whole entirety of it, yes, is more complicated. But it's just more of the same, really.
So obviously your help is basically the equivalence of you in maybe very good in their own divisions, isn't it? That's sort of thing. Is that right?
Yeah, though I think there were about, Gula may remember the number, I think it was 80 odd supporters and helpers, whatever, doing last year. How many, Annalise, how many Zoom masters have we got? 15, 20? 30. We have 30 Zoom masters. We had about 15, 20 last year. But then we are running 4 sets of rooms simultaneously, so we do need a few more.
Can I ask one final question? Well, we could go on for hours talking about what's happening this weekend, but so a lot of the speeches are pre-recorded, aren't they?
No.
Okay, they're not. Oh, there we are.
Last year there was one pre-recorded. Sorry if I go tearful, I apologise. There was one pre-recorded last year because one of our friends who was our keynote speaker had a very close friend die a few days before. I didn't even expect anything from him and he sent us a video. So there was one video last year. I believe there are 2 people threatening to do videos. I'm still not convinced that they'll actually decide at the end of the day to do videos. Usually people do videos for one or 2 reasons. Either they're not confident that they can deliver it bang on time the right way, or they're just used to just chucking videos to people, and this idea of turning up in real life seems really weird to them. There are... Ooh, I better be careful here. I've got to be careful here. Mustn't let the cat out of the bag, must Annalise. There are some recordings during one of the presenters, but that's not the presenter recording, that's me. I've actually recorded some content for one of the presenters because they wanted some examples, and you're just going to have to work out who it is and go and see them to learn more. But no, almost everything in the contest, the keynotes, the workshops, is all live. And that's the way we want it, because we want Q&A.
I'm sure you've been behind the scenes for so many months on and off anyway with it, so I look forward to it this weekend. So there we are.
Thank you very much. Yes, don't forget, get your tickets. Only £15 for 2 days, and what you don't see at the conference, Zoom willing, we're recording, and then it will be distributed shortly after. Okay, so if anyone, unless anyone's got any other questions, I'm going to go on to some other tools that you should be using in Zoom and make more of. The first one is polls. Polls are fantastically good. Do you know the best time? When's the best time to use a poll? There we are. Let's see if you're all awake.
Table topics.
Table topics. Yeah. When else? When during a presentation should you do a poll?
Voting.
Yeah. I would suggest one of the best times to do as a poll is at the start of your presentation. I don't say hello and then throw a poll onto the screen. But a poll is really useful at the beginning if you don't know your audience, because it's a very quick way for you to find out what the audience do or do not know. And that way you can be a bit more devious in the content you put. And again, just to plug ourselves here, Toastmasters are good at having a presentation and then changing bits of it. We learn how to do that. So if you have a presentation put together and you have a set of ideas in your head, and then you realise that your audience is not going to understand subject number 2, you either decide to take subject number 2 out and leave it for another time, or you decide you want to put more detail into subject number 2 and you will shorten subject number 3. So they are really useful. The other thing that you can use to get interaction is to just chuck the audience into breakout rooms. Now, we're not using breakout rooms much at the conference because 20 to 30 minutes of content isn't really enough time to run a breakout room, because you want people to get in there, do something useful, come back and discuss it. If you're doing a longer session though, breakout rooms are really powerful. If you want to break the group up into different subsets, breakout rooms are really powerful. If you want people to see advertisers or sponsors, I do a lot of medical conferences, and in the break in the middle we set up breakout rooms for the sponsors. So if all the doctors want to go and speak to a various sponsor about various things, they've got little private breakout rooms for them to go to. If you've got a multidisciplinary or a multi-level discussion about technology or about your subject, maybe you put the people at the different levels of understanding into separate breakout rooms to deliver individual content to them at some point during the presentation. Maybe you want to have a more discussive environment than just waiting for Sarah to find questions because you've got a bigger audience. So you break them up into breakout rooms and you put moderators into breakout rooms to work on those questions. Breakout rooms are really powerful, and they are really powerful in a multitude of ways now because, again, Zoom has upped its game. So first of all, you can pre-select everybody where they're going to go in a breakout room. So if they've registered ahead of time like you guys have, I could have pre-selected you all in to go to specific breakout rooms. And then when I open the breakout rooms, you'd all get thrown into those pre-selected places. I can also automatically just choose you to go into those rooms at random. So if we've got 25 people and I open 5 rooms and my math still works at this time of night, we'll end up with 5 people in each of those rooms. There is one other way you can use Zoom now. You can use manual mode. You can open up a set of rooms, like I do at doctors' conferences, and all the people then have the ability to go into those rooms of their own volition, or not at all, of course. So they can choose which rooms to go in, and actually they can choose to go into one room and then go into another room and work their way around. These will help you, but on longer sessions. So if you're doing club training and things like that, breakout rooms are really powerful. When you're coming to the conference this weekend, we are probably not, because even the speakers that have talked about it are erring away now from using breakout rooms, because 20 minutes is not long enough to really make use of them, but they are a really powerful tool. Please use them more. Why not chuck everybody into breakout rooms before the meeting starts so they can all have one-on-ones or one-on-twos? Maybe even do it in your middle break, or do it at the end. If you do the the manual method rather than the auto method, then if they want to go away and have a meeting about various things, you could have a breakout room. You could give it different names, so different categories of things people wish to speak about. How do you pre-select?
Questions.
Yeah.
Comments in the
Okay,
chat on
I can see it zooming around in my corner of my eye. So carry on.
Actually, it connects really well to what you're just saying there in terms of what is the purpose and what is the meeting that you're having. And I think some people are a bit scared by all of your technology and how many screens you've got, and thinking, oh gosh, they need to go and buy loads and loads of tech. But I think what is obvious to me is and what's coming across is that there's simple ways to make yourself look good on Zoom. There's all the ways that you're recommending that everyone can do with the technology they have in terms of making the meetings better by encouraging the interaction from the buttons, by use of the breakout rooms. And for those, you don't need all of the tech that you have. I mean, you have
Correct.
tech because you're an expert and you're running huge conferences. And that's possibly when people might need to up their tech. But for most of what us mere mortals here are doing, and what we're doing as Toastmasters in the meeting, we're all good with a laptop and just the one camera and one microphone.
Yeah, and even the videos and the screens that I've used today. Okay, I used some tech to deliver those, which was a bit more than the average guy can use. But you could have used screen share, and you could have run videos. Yeah, you can go into screen share and say I want to run a video, and it'll run a video for you. And remember to hit that button, otherwise the sound won't come through. So remember to hit share sound when you do that. All the things that I did today were all a little bit better, but they're all just as easy to do on a standard version of Zoom. The only thing I would say is please buy the lowest monthly cost basic version of Zoom. Don't use the free version. You just have more security, and it is so easy to sit down with somebody, say you're going to talk for half an hour, and then start panicking because Zoom's going to shut the meeting down at 40 minutes, and you know there's no way they're going to reconnect for you. So it is worth the £10-15 a month. I promise you it is worth it. If you do anything that's commercial, whether it be your club, which of course you can't run a club meeting in 40 minutes, or anything you do work wise, it really does make the difference having that pro version.
And a question, how does question time do applause? I'm assuming that's something to do with the sharing of the sound.
Yes, they just share the sound. We have at Epsom Speakers, just a plug for my local club. At Epsom Speakers, I have created our own, and I think I've thrown it everywhere. So it's on the Epsom Speakers website. I think it's in Division D. It's in various places. I have recorded my own version of applause. It's 18 different recordings of me applauding at different rates, just layered on top of each other. So no one can catch you for copyright because I created it literally from scratch. I like when I can use that word in the right context. I created that from scratch. You're welcome to use it. It is good for a small meeting applause, and you play that through the shared sound option in the share screen. And we have a clap master. I'm not sure if that sounds wrong. Sometimes to me it just sounds wrong, but we have a clap master, and it's one I have promised you don't volunteer. It's the hardest job ever, because you are sitting there, I won't use that word literally again, you are sitting there with that piece of audio on your video player and your finger above the mouse button, waiting for somebody to finish their speech so you can hit the button and get the applause in the right place. It's harder than being a timekeeper, being the clap master. But it has an amazing effect on the audience, because immediately we hear applause, we start going, don't we? Even though we know after the first clap that no one can actually hear us because our microphones are not even on, and if they were, Zoom would kill it anyhow. But then we suddenly notice everybody else is also fallen for the same trick, and they're all clapping as well. And that mental idea of giving applause and being together works. I'm going to try and put applause tracks into our conference. Of course, I now know I've got to do it properly and get it the right place for everybody, because I know as soon as I miss one of the speakers and I get the applause at the wrong time or miss it out, you will be hitting that chat button with complaints and criticisms, and the only thing I can say in my defence is when I do it for the competitions, the speakers won't know I even tried, and nor will the judges. It's just for you, the audience, to try and encourage you to join in.
And another question, what is the cost of the OBS app?
I bet that's somebody who owns a copy of OBS, because they want me to tell everybody that OBS is free. OBS is free, no charge, ever. It is a shareware piece of product. That's the good news. The bad news is, because it has no revenue behind it, it is kept going by hobbyists, and therefore will never have all the high-tech gizmos or the ease of use that some of the commercial products will have. As I said, my basic version of vMix is only $35, and there's no upgrade charge. It's $35 for, well, they don't say they're ever going to charge again. Personally, I actually think that's silly. They should charge for a release at some point. But yeah, it's $35 for the basic version, and I believe it's a 60-day license. I mean, between you, me, and all of Facebook that's watching this, the conference last year was actually run on 2 free versions of Emix. I didn't actually buy the licenses until the week after. I didn't mean to do that, but it's just that I installed it, I set it all up, I bought one of the licenses, and I didn't know which computer to apply it to, so I didn't apply it to either. And because we actually ran the conference within the time of the license, we actually ran the conference on a free license. Of course, by the time the conference had finished, I wanted to buy the license because I was determined to use it for everything else. But there is quite a long free license on vMix if you want to give it a go, and try them. There are other pieces of software. There's quite a few pieces of software that gamers are using, so that will allow them to be on a video, sharing their screen of their game, and then they get some little extra bits like a little bit of lower thirds, a title or something, or a logo. So there are other products out there. There's quite a few products out there, but yeah, you can start with OBS. OBS is free, and if it persuades you that that idea works and you can do your little title, that could be enough. By the way, Zoom, if you're listening, didn't you promise to give us lower thirds in the first quarter of this year? And if my calendar's working, we're not in the first quarter anymore, and I still haven't seen those lower thirds. So it's a good job I didn't promise them to my conference director for the 1st of May. But never mind. I'm sure they'll come sometime.
We have a question of what is a lower third.
You see? Right, so Toastmasters 101. I use a technical term, I didn't explain it. What a bad boy I am. A lower third is a piece of graphic that comes across the bottom of the screen. It's called the lower third because usually it takes up about a quarter of the screen. The sort of thing that the TV stations have, with a name coming across or what's next. We've used them at the conference quite a lot because the MC, and Sarah's going to hate me saying this, but the MC will, or the contest chair, will announce a speaker, announce the speech, announce the speech, announce the speaker. the speaker starts. And what's the first thing we see in the conference chat? What's the name of that speaker? So we can put a lower third across the bottom with the name of the speaker for about the first 5 or 10 seconds. I find that that's about the right rule of thumb. I've tested it at division contests with the name of the speaker, and if they're doing a prepared speech, hopefully the name of the speech as well. Just for you that are going to try and catch me here, yes, but again, I am only showing that to you, the audience. The contestants are on another Zoom area, so are the judges. They do not see that lower third, so if there's any gesticulation that I've just covered up with my little graphic, only you, the audience, will have lost the ability to see that. The contest carries on regardless. And I suppose I now need to be a little bit more technical and explain what I'm talking about over there. So one of the things we've used Zoom for is to simplify competitions. Now, I'm sure you all remember what a nightmare it is at club level when you're trying to run competition. You've got the audience there, you've got the club members there, and then you go to area level where you've got the contest, which is more important now because it's area level, and you've got even more audience members running around. You've got to get the judges and the contestants all in the right place at the right time. So I came up with a really simple suggestion last year. I said, well, why don't we put the audience in one Zoom room and then we'll put the competition in another Zoom room so the audience can make as much noise and do as much chat as they like. It doesn't matter because they're in a separate Zoom room to the other. And of course, I was then challenged, well, how do you do that? Well, it's quite easy because using all this software and hardware I've got, I can make a picture from one Zoom event appear as a picture in another Zoom event. And that actually is relatively easy if you get the right equipment. And no, off the top of my head, you can't do that with OBS because you need to get the signal out of one computer to another. So a lot of the time you need one of these little boxes that will take a video signal from one computer and feed it into the other as a webcam. And that way you can link two Zooms together. Of course, we're going to go bigger than that because we can link three Zooms together and the audio between two Zooms, so we can have two Zooms talking to each other as we did at divisional contests. But this is what happens, you see. Once you start using Zoom and you start using all these bits of tech, you just up your game. When you find that it's working for you, challenge yourself. That's what we do at Toastmasters. Challenge yourself. Up your game. Find another little tool, another little device. Yes, there's well over £15,000 worth of equipment around me. Well, at least that's what I've told the insurance company, so I'm pretty sure that's what I need to replace it all. You don't need all this overnight. The odd little gizmo just makes a difference. And as I said at the very beginning, I honestly believe, because it's happened to me and it's happened to people that I've helped, every time you get just that little bit better than everybody else, you are becoming better known, you're becoming better respected, and you've got less competition, because the higher up you go, the less competition you've got, because you've only got those people above you to compete with. All these people down there, you've beaten them, and every time you do something simple, you improve yourselves. And you already have a 10-point lead as a Toastmaster because you are giving better presentations and better content than most of the really, well, I don't want to say it, how can I put it, the long in the tooth people that have been running webinars for year on year on year, because they are still stuck in the webinar world. You guys don't even know what the webinar world is. Please don't find out. Just use Zoom. Much better. It's a whole new game, and whatever you want to sell, whatever you want to project, whatever you want to do in your life, however you want to win over people, we now know that you can do it just as easily online as face to face. Okay, we had to learn a few skills, but at the end of the day, I told you that your audio is the most important thing. But we all know that unless you have something intelligent to say to put into that audio, it's still not going to be good enough. You guys are learning the skills at Toastmasters to know what to put into the microphone. So if people can hear you well and they can then see you well with good lighting, the world is really anything you want it to be.
I think what John has said
said throughout this as well about Toastmasters is that it's a great place to experiment and to try things out and to see what happens. And so there's actually been a lot of great stuff in the chat where people have been helping each other out and signposting. I haven't asked all the questions because some of those have been answered by other people in the audience, and I love that about Toastmasters is that people are helping each other out. And I think a lot of what John's been talking about tonight, you can experiment in your clubs. So why not try using the breakout rooms? And if it doesn't quite go to plan, then that doesn't matter because it's Toastmasters. And try using the reactions in your speeches and experiment with all the features that John's been talking about tonight on Zoom. I think that's really important in terms of you're probably not going to learn it all. John's explained it brilliantly, but you've got to try it to learn it. So why not try it in your clubs?
Last year, 6 weeks before we were due to have a conference, the pandemic started. And I said to Florian, I think I know a way we can do this online. Now that took a great leap of faith by him to actually go for it. But that's what Toastmasters is all about. And the biggest joke is on me. You know, I mentioned that program called vMix, which I'm using now. And you got an idea that I probably didn't have it very long because I said that I actually ran the last conference on the demo license. I made the decision to change from another program to vMix 24 hours before the conference started, because after playing with Wirecast and then having a look at vMix, I realised that for what we needed for that conference, it was going to be easier to do with vMix. So 24 hours before the conference started, I changed horses. I wouldn't dare do that in a commercial company. I really wouldn't. Okay, yeah, I had the other program on standby, so if things went down, I could just restart the computer within a minute. I would be back into the other environment. But we ran on vMix for that conference. I didn't test that video that I gave to you today for 2 reasons. One is I didn't have enough time. But secondly, I realised I was going to have an audio problem because I did a few test shots in the morning. They didn't all come out. And I realised I was going to have an audio problem. Firstly, because it was really windy this morning, and going outside with the wind blowing, it didn't matter what I used, I was getting a lot of wind noise and it wasn't working. The wind dropped in the afternoon for just about an hour, so I went out and did my recordings. And I knew I didn't have a chance to do them again. And I knew because I hadn't watched the audio levels, I knew there was going to be an audio difference between the versions. And I knew there was going to be a problem. But I also knew that that problem was going to demonstrate something. So what am I saying? I'm saying that thanks to Toastmasters, I take more risks. But thanks to Toastmasters, even when I really make a big mistake, Toastmasters has taught me how to recover. And 9 times out of 10, your audience doesn't notice. Remember what they tell you when you do your icebreaker. John, if you forget something in the middle of your icebreaker, do you know what you do? You keep quiet about it. You don't tell people you've just missed a great big chunk out of your icebreaker. You keep stum, because the only person that knows if you have missed something out in your icebreaker is you. The audience will be oblivious. So just keep going. Best piece of advice I ever had in my first Toastmasters meeting. And it really made a difference because I forgot something in my icebreaker. And usually I would have apologised. I would have backtracked. But no, I didn't. I just carried on. And everybody said it was a great speech. They never knew the bit was missing. And I used the bit in another speech later on. So fine. All worked out rather well, really.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is what you've just been saying now is just an absolutely brilliant pace and message to possibly start to wrap this up on. And I think lots and lots of people have got lots of questions, and but we have been going on for quite a while. So, and I don't know if John is willing to stick around afterwards, but I did just want to do a few little announcements for those who might need to go as we have kind of reached our time limit. There's been quite a few questions about the tech that you've been talking about, and we might try, if we can, and find a way to
share a list
I'll
of
have
technology.
I'll have a little talk about the tech afterwards. So when we officially finished, I'll go on and talk a bit about the tech if people want that, and I'm fine to do that.
Yeah, and maybe just try and we'll find a way to put a list somewhere of the different things that you recommend, because people are very interested in like how they can then take it to the next level with that technology you've been talking about. But I did just want to say a huge, huge thank you to John for putting on this session tonight. And people have been so engaged with it and have so many questions. And I think it's been brilliant how John has catered to all the different levels of Zoom in terms of the looking good and sounding good, the interacting with the audience, the experimentation of Toastmasters, and then how you can really do all those really techie things that probably scare some of the technophobes here. But as what John's been saying, is Toastmasters is a great place to try this and to keep pushing your skills. So first of all, just a huge, huge thank you, a big round of applause for John. Thank you so much for sharing your immense, immense knowledge with us tonight. We really appreciate it, and I've seen also, I've had lots and lots of messages in the chat from everyone saying how much it's been really useful, and thank you for just sharing and answering all of the questions that we've had in on such a broad range of Zoom related topics. And I just, well, you can see in the conference on Saturday how this is all going to work, and the amazing levels of Zoom technology that is going to be going on to make that conference happen that John's been talking about, all the different ways that he'll be doing the contests and the 30 Zoom Masters that we've got and 4 different stages. So I hope this event tonight has got everyone excited about the conference. It's going to be an amazing, amazing weekend. There is going to be so much going on, and you will just be able to learn so much. If you haven't got your ticket, please go and get your ticket from the website. And then also remember that we've got loads of free events coming up every evening this week. We've got an improv session tomorrow, so those people who like table topics and then maybe want to take it to a whole other level, we've got Annie Pritchard, who does this on a regular basis, and I've heard amazing things about her improv session. So if you fancy a bit of fun on your Tuesday night, please go to Annie's improv pre-conference soiree, which is tomorrow evening. We have social media tips. We have talking about the future of Toastmasters and what's going to happen as we maybe transition back in person. We have a Zumba class on Thursday, so a chance to get moving and do something different there. And then our party master, Glenn, on Friday night is going to be hosting the pre-conference drinks and to get just everyone really warmed up and excited about the conference. So everything is on the conference website. I'll put the link in the chat one more time. If you haven't got your tickets, please get them, but please also do join us all this week in the evenings to just get revved up for what is going to be an amazing, amazing conference. So thank you so much to everyone for your amazing attention this evening, for being here, for interacting. I think it's really important, because these kind of sessions don't work unless the audience is engaged, and it's been amazing engagement. It's obviously something that everyone is really keen to hear about. So thank you all to you, and one more huge, huge thank you to Lord Zoom, John Drinkwater.
And for that comment that I just saw in the text, yes, poor Sarah does have an echo. That's because her microphone is not right up her nose like mine is, and you can hear the sound bouncing off. But of course we did that on purpose so you'd appreciate the difference in sound. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to disappear for a minute. I just want to make sure my mum's still happy, as she only came back from the hospital. And I will kill the lives, and then if anyone wants to ask a few more questions, then I'm happy to stay for another 15-20 minutes, but just within the Zoom room. So we will reconvene for those that are gluttons of punishment in 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Everybody else, you can go home and have your dinner, don't worry.